In the dim light of a forgotten dawn, the waters rose without mercy. One moment, fields stretched green and endless under a pale sky. The next, a wall of brown fury swallowed everything in its path. Entire cities, built over centuries of human ambition, vanished beneath waves that carried away not just lives, but the very foundations of civilization. Across millennia, floods have not merely damaged societies, they have unraveled them, erasing empires from the map and rewriting the course of human history. The collapse did not begin with chaos. It began quietly, in the deceptive calm of rivers that once gave life, but later demanded it back with devastating interest. No one understood what was coming next, until the silence of drowned worlds spoke louder than any surviving chronicle. From the submerged plains of ancient Doggerland to the silt-choked ruins along the Indus, floods have repeatedly tested the resilience of human order. In the wake of the last ice age, around 8,000 years ago, vast lowlands connecting what we now call Britain to continental Europe flourished with hunter-gatherer communities. Lush forests, abundant game and rich wetlands supported thriving settlements. The air hummed with the sounds of daily life, stone tools shaping wood, children laughing near shallow streams, fires crackling under starlit skies. These people navigated a world of plenty, unaware that melting glaciers far to the north were quietly raising the seas. Daily routines revolved around seasonal migrations and the bounty of rivers and coasts, where fishing and foraging sustained families for generations. The environment felt eternal, a stable cradle for emerging societies, yet early warning signs flickered like distant lightning on the horizon. Subtle shifts in coastal patterns, unusually high tides creeping farther inland, and the gradual salinization of freshwater sources hinted at imbalance. In the Indus Valley civilization, around 4,000 years ago, mighty cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa stood as marvels of urban planning, with advanced drainage systems, granaries and bustling markets filled with the scent of spices and the clamor of trade. Citizens walked brick-paved streets, drawing water from deep wells, their lives ordered by the rhythmic floods of the Indus River that fertilized vast agricultural plains. Artisans crafted intricate seals and jewelry, while farmers tended crops under predictable monsoon skies. This was a world of harmony between human ingenuity and nature's cycles. Or so it seemed. Invisible pressures mounted as tectonic movements and changing rainfall patterns altered river courses. In Mesopotamia, legendary floods inspired epic tales of survival, yet real deluge periodically threatened the cradle of cities like Ur and Kish. Communities rebuilt after smaller inundations, reinforcing levees and temples dedicated to water gods. The rising tension manifested in strained resources, as silt deposits raised riverbeds, making overflows more frequent and destructive. Leaders issued decrees for collective labor on embankments, but underlying vulnerabilities grew. Populations swelled in fertile valleys, dependence on predictable floods deepened, and environmental signals, erratic monsoons, heavier sediment loads, were often dismissed as temporary whims of the divine. By the time the signs became unmistakable, the intricate social fabric had already begun to fray. Key decisions amplified the danger. In ancient China, along the Yangtze River, the sophisticated Shijiaha culture constructed elaborate water management systems, palaces, and defensive walls. Rulers prioritized expansion and agricultural intensification, clearing lands and building ever higher barriers against the river's moods. Similar patterns emerged elsewhere, where short-term gains in food production outweighed long-term ecological caution. Mistakes compounded as deforestation upstream increased runoff, and over-reliance on riverine trade routes left societies exposed. Pressures from growing populations demanded more from the land, pushing settlements deeper into flood-prone zones. The hubris of controlling nature through engineering masked the accumulating risk, fostering a false sense of mastery until the balance tipped irreversibly. Then came the moment the system began to fail. In Doggerland, a massive tsunami triggered by a submarine landslide around 6200 BCE accelerated the drowning of lowlands already weakened by rising seas. Walls of water surged across the landscape, sweeping away homes, tools, and people in a roar that echoed for miles. Survivors clung to higher ground, watching their world dissolve into the North Sea. For the Indus Valley, repeated massive floods, possibly exacerbated by tectonic shifts, buried streets under layers of mud and silt. Mohenjo-daro's lower levels show evidence of desperate rebuilding atop debris, only for waters to return with greater force. The carefully engineered drains clogged, wells filled with sediment, and once vibrant public spaces turned into stagnant pools. The collapse unfolded not in one cataclysm, but through relentless, punishing cycles that eroded confidence and capacity. Human consequences unfolded with brutal clarity. Social breakdown accelerated as food stores rotted, trade networks collapsed, and disease spread through contaminated waters. Families fled to higher elevations, abandoning cities that had defined their identities for centuries. In the chaos, authority fragmented. Priest kings and administrators lost legitimacy when rituals failed to appease the floods. Looting and conflict erupted over dwindling resources, while the weakest, elderly, children, the infirm, perished in the deluge or its aftermath. The air filled with the cries of the displaced, the stench of decay, and an overwhelming silence where bustling markets once thrived. Entire ways of life dissolved, forcing migrations that scattered knowledge, skills, and cultural continuity across unfamiliar terrains. Long-term historical impacts reshaped continents and legacies. The flooding of Doggerland severed Britain from Europe, altering migration patterns and cultural evolution for millennia. Indus Valley survivors dispersed eastward, contributing to new societies, but losing the urban complexity that defined their golden age. In China, devastating Yellow River floods repeatedly toppled dynasties, embedding flood control into the mandate of heaven and influencing imperial priorities for thousands of years. These ruptures accelerated technological adaptations, from improved levees to relocated capitals, yet also left scars, lost languages, forgotten technologies, and oral traditions haunted by tales of watery apocalypse. Floods did not just destroy, they forced reinvention, often at the cost of hard-won progress. The echoes of these drowned civilizations linger in our collective memory, from flood myths shared across cultures to the submerged ruins modern archaeology slowly unveils. They remind us that human societies, no matter how advanced, remain tethered to the whims of the natural world. Rivers that once cradled empires can become agents of their undoing when hubris meets environmental limits. The silence of abandoned streets, the weight of silt-bearing palaces, and the resilience of scattered survivors paint a haunting portrait of fragility. What endured was not stone or gold, but the stories of warning passed through generations. In the end, floods that destroyed civilizations reveal a profound truth about our place on this planet. They strike not as random punishment, but as the culmination of intertwined forces, climatic shifts, human choices, and the inexorable power of water. As modern cities rise along vulnerable coastlines and riverbanks, the ghosts of Mohenjo-Daro, Doggerland, and ancient Chinese settlements whisper across time. The collapse did not announce itself with fanfare. It crept in with the first unnatural swell of the tide. By the time the waters receded, the world had changed forever, leaving us to ponder whether we will heed the lessons written in layers of mud and forgotten brick. The river flows on, patient and unforgiving, carrying both life and the seeds of rupture into an uncertain future.